It's hard to describe the events that went on during this 6 weeks that I was in, almost 7 weeks in Fiji with Robert Martin. And by the way, Robert sends his greeting to all of you and his love and thankfulness for your support and prayers. He's a great person to be with in the Pacific Islands, that's for sure. I want to mention real quick just about Pacific Island Bible College because it highlights why we go out there. But first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your prayers, for your thoughts, for your encouragement, for your prayers for my family back here. When I left, I didn't know if I'd see my mother alive again on this earth. And thankful to your prayers, she's recovered to the point where she can get about a little bit. But I'm really grateful for that, and for Luann caring for her mom while I was away. It's a great task to have. So thank you all for that. And thank you for your support on Mission Sundays each year that help fund this great work beyond myself and the work that Robert does. But the mission of Pacific Islands Bible College, PIBC, is to take the Bible lessons to the individuals rather than having a central place where people have to spend lots of money to travel to come, and often they don't go back to their home congregations. So this was a great, thoughtful, prayerful result of Robert Martin's wisdom in teaching in the Pacific. So we bring almost 26 lessons to the Pacific Islands on a rotating basis, such that the people can deeply study the Word of God. We study for 3 weeks straight, 3 weeks of working days. So in the evening, each work week, we have a 2-hour session each evening for 3 weeks. That's 15 days worth of teaching, or 30 hours worth of teaching for the students. And in that, they can work towards a diploma. But more than that, these brethren are just so wonderful to come together into one central congregation in some of these places. And the fellowship is just amazing between them. Singing, we'd have to open all those doors to keep from breaking them because of the way they sing. They are just wonderful people to be with, very encouraging, and it's such a great thing for me to be a part of that. So I want to mention that you'll see in one slide in just a minute where one of the ladies received a diploma. That represented 360 hours of class time. 360 hours. So a diploma is not that much. I mean, it's an encouragement for them and an accomplishment for them. But they have studied how to be a Christian actively. They've studied the Bible. They've studied church leadership. They've studied many, many things that help them on their way. And it is very evident in the Pacific Islands for these brethren that they know their Bible. I often get the question, where is Fiji? And how far is it? Well, it's almost 8,000 miles away from here. That's a long distance. It takes about 24 hours of travel time to get there. The last leg from Los Angeles to Fiji is about 11 hours flying over nothing but the Pacific Ocean. It's amazing to see it if you fly in daylight. You can see nothing but water. And also, just a fact, Fiji straddles the opposite of the meridian, the anti-meridian. So the meridian of the earth runs through Greenwich, England. The other side of the world, literally, is Fiji. So from England to Fiji, it's all the way around the world. I want to show you on this picture how we teach in Fiji. You'll see the two major islands there. Viti Levu is the one on the bottom left. Vanua Levu is the one on the top right. And there's about 300 islands in Fiji. In 2023, we were in Vanua Levu up in the north, where we spent 6 weeks. We taught in 2 different congregations, 4 different congregations coming to those 2 congregations. It was in 2017 that we were in the western part of Viti Levu, That's where Nandi, Lautoka, and Ba are located. And then we went back this year to teach again. And then in Rewanga, on the western side, or eastern side, on the right-hand side of Nuulewa, there are a group of 5 or more congregations. I say or more because some are a bit distant. But Rewanga, Nela, 10 Mile, Southern, Vatawanga, Nasori, and Delamandu. As different congregations come together at Rewanga for the Pacific Island Bible College. There we held a record attendance this year. There were 89 average people attending this congregation. That didn't count the little children. Those were adults. And 60 of those people received credit for taking the classes that we taught. In Rewanga, we taught the mission of the local church, which was my class, and Robert taught church leadership. I'm awed when I stand in front of Robert hearing him teach, the depth of knowledge that he has and the great way he presents. I want to point out on this particular chart, you see one on the right-hand side where we're taking a picture on the inside of the congregation. Well, guess what? We couldn't get everybody in there. They put up a tarp over the outside, and the left-hand side of that are people sitting outside in the elements, only covered by a tarp. And brethren, the eastern side of Viti Levu is the rainy side, and we were there during the rainy season. So at night, you could expect rain. We thankfully didn't have a lot, but the people outside often got wet from blowing rain, and or their feet were soaked because of the groundwater leaching in. There's another picture of that tarp out in front of the building, and I put this in here just to show you both the dedication of the individuals being there and also the fact that they have plans for a new building. Not a new building, but in addition to the existing building. And that's an artist rendering of that. And you can see that little yellow mark. They're going to basically double the size of their auditorium. And they're in the process of submitting for permits, which don't come easy in the island of Fiji. But they've done a good job getting ready for it. And they're starting to raise money for that. The next slide is the Delamandu congregation. This is a little congregation up in the hills. It's about an hour and 10 minutes ride to Rewanga every night for those people, and an hour and 10 minutes back. And we'll talk about transportation in a minute. But those brethren were there en masse. Children, they'd come in the bus and you could hear them singing as they drove up. So it's really encouraging to me and to all those that were there. But Delamandu is a wonderful little congregation full of stories that I could tell from Robert and from my experiences there, which time just doesn't permit. But this may not play. I guess it won't. But that was the brethren saying, Bula, Palm Beach Lakes, which is the Fijian greeting. And brethren, I can tell you, bar none, every one of the congregations send their love and gratefulness to you for allowing Robert and I to come there. And they mean it from the heart. They are gracious people and wonderful people. This other small congregation that you'll see is, can you advance that for me? It's not clicking. There we go. That went backwards. One more. There we go. No, it's backwards again. Well, that's him singing. There you go. Vatawanga. Vatawanga is a very small congregation. You can see everyone sitting on the floor. That's not uncommon in Fiji in some congregations where there are no pews. And believe me, sometimes it's more comfortable sitting on the floor. Those pews are made out of 2x4s, and they are hard. They're not soft like these pews. But the brethren sit there quietly and pay great, gracious attention. So the Vatawanga congregation, the southern congregation, I'll tell you a little story about this congregation in a moment. A wonderful instruction to the very few young people that are there. Those young men rival our young men in the ability to stand up in front of a congregation and serve their part in a worship service. It's really grateful. I'm really grateful to see that, and they are gracious people. Also, one of the congregations we went to installed 4 elders, and that's a great accomplishment for a church in Fiji. The church in Rewanga has 2 elders, a much larger church. These brethren now have 4, and we were part of that installation. They asked Robert to speak at that to help them, and afterwards we had a feast, like a feast you would never believe, and it was a wonderful thing to be there for that. I mentioned about transportation, and I say this because it costs money for the people to come to PIBC. You think about just getting in a car here and driving to Fort Pierce or somewhere else. But brethren, there are very few cars there that are owned by people in the church. And those that are packed. You'll see a picture in the lower right, the little truck was full of people in the back, full of people in the back seat, full of people in the front seat, and a lot more than that would be allowed here in the U.S. But because of that, Robert always takes funds to help offset their costs. Just inside the city of Suva, where Rewanga is, it would cost about $25 Fijian dollars one way, so $50 round trip. That's about, well, I won't say how much, but it's a significant portion just for one day's travel of 1 week's salary for those people. So we encourage them to come, and we do that by paying for their travel. And I have to hand it to the eldership here. They gave us additional funds this year to help pay for the people traveling to and from. Now, the church in Dela Mandu, which is an hour and 10 minutes away, it costs about $2,000 a week for them to travel because they have to hire a larger bus to bring them. So the brethren come, and they come faithfully. And I'm just so grateful for the encouragement that is. Also, after we finished our work there, we drove for about 3.5 hours from the east side to the west side of Viti Levu. You can see that in that little map. To Nandi. Nandi is where we stayed. Lautoka, which is just north of Nandi, is where we had the lesson. The building in Nandi isn't big enough to hold a number of people, so we held that in Lautoka. And there I taught Revelation, and Robert taught Joshua through Esther. A great lesson to hear from Robert. And again, that occurred over 3 weeks. So there's the Lautoka congregation, and the lady in the middle is the one that's getting her diploma. And I already mentioned that took 360 hours of study time. And brethren, the people, again, I use the word gracious a lot because that's just what they are. They are grateful that we're there. They're hospitable in every way you can think of. They are loving and kind, and they are really thankful to you for allowing us to go. There we also had a record attendance of 43 average, and 40 people received credit. And I'm going to talk about the young people in just a minute. Another congregation we went to is the Ba congregation. Ba is a little industrial city, primarily sugar cane, just north of Lautoka, about 25 miles away. And again, a small congregation, but faithful people. And you can see photographs there, including the little one that just went to sleep. It wasn't me teaching, but anyway, the little kids, unlike in American congregations, people don't get upset when they cry, because they cry. They don't get upset when they walk up and hold on to their grandfather's sulavakatanga when he's teaching or speaking. So it's just a wonderful thing to see them focused on God's Word, not all the involvement around them. And the last congregation we were at is Nandi. And throughout all this time, Robert and I would switch on Sundays from one congregation to another. He'd teach and preach at one, I'd teach and preach at another one. And then we'd rotate the next Sunday so we could try to cover all of them. And the Nandi is one of the smaller congregations in Fiji. I wanted to tell you two short stories here, and hopefully I'm not going too much over. But there was a little bit of a reunion there this time. That's Brother Yoni Kali. Yoni is a brother that worked with Robert when he was living in Fiji for 10 years, side by side with Robert, printing tracts on an offset printing press in English, Hindustan, which is the Indian language, and Fijian. So they worked closely together, and Robert then moved on to American Samoa, and then following that to Saipan, and then back to the United States. But they lost track of, the brethren lost track of Kali. And it turns out he went back to his village. His village is where you see that long arrow, tiny island called Vanua Belevu. Vanua Belevu is some of the most beautiful islands in Fiji, in that area. So he went back to his island. Robert hadn't seen this man for 30 years, and same with the brethren in Suva. He came back to Suva, and in that reunion, they reunited and learned that he teaches and preaches in his house in Vanua Belevu with, no outside help, basically. And it's about a 2-hour flight there on a small 3-engine prop plane that only flies 3 times a week, only when the weather's good. But Kali takes a trip on a workboat, a freighter that takes goods and fruits and vegetables to the islands. And that takes 3 days to get there. So that's how remote this island is. But it was great to meet Brother Kali, and Robert had a wonderful event with him and seeing him. And he attended the classes every night. The young people. I was so impressed with all the young people. They're polite. There's a thing in Fiji called respect. That's a word that they use often in their own language, but it's a word where it's expected of the people to be respectful, the Fijian people. Respectful to their seniors, respectful to the village elders and to those in positions of authority, respectful for their parents, and it shows. It shows. So I want to mention Soko, the little man on the left. He was sitting through my classes on Revelation. This kid is 13 years old. Now, Revelation is not for a 13-year-old, but he wanted to take the test, the exam at the end, and we let him take the test. He did a noble job for a 13-year-old. But that shows he and his brother also took the test, who's 16, and a number of other younger people, both in the classes in Suva and the classes here. So it's great to see the young people wanting to sit through 30 hours in a week, taking classes. And by the way, one of those weeks they had their exams all week. So they gave to be there. I want to mention, too, a young Indian girl. Now, teaching an Indian person the gospel is very difficult. The conversion rate is very low because they believe in many gods, any god you want, and it's a very difficult thing for them to comprehend one God. There's a young lady that's in the picture there, I won't point her out, that was there when I was preaching one morning, and she did not take her eyes off of me. And I later learned that she is close to obeying the gospel. She has no family. Her mother and father are just not there. She lives with the grandparents that are both aged. One of those grandparents is close to death. And after that, she and her brother have nowhere to go. So I'm sure the brethren will take care of them. But that has the impact of one young lady in this congregation being taught the gospel. Also, in the right-hand side, when we were in Lautoka, there's a small Japanese population in Lautoka. This Japanese girl walks by this building. She heard the singing, and this wasn't while I was there. She had come before. But she heard the singing, and she wanted to come in. And she told me while I was there, I want to learn more about the Bible. And she used in her terminology, I want to join this church. She was there. She took the class on Revelation and on Joshua through Esther, and she passed it. She got online to get a hold of a Bible so she could read the New Testament. So, brethren, those are great, encouraging things. And lastly, the elders and preachers here have agreed to send a chapter a day over to the Pacific Islands. You recall that, that's a big book. And we're estimating about 400 pounds worth of shipping over there. So we're working out the logistics to get them across all these different sites. But won't it be grand that these brethren will be reading through the New Testament next year together? Nothing bad will come of that. That's a wonderful thing. Well, I thank the leadership here for supporting that. So lastly, as Paul said in Romans 16:16, greet one another with a holy kiss. The churches of Christ greet you. I received that from the brethren to give to you. The churches of Christ in Fiji greet you and thank you. And thank you very much individually. Thank you for your encouragement, for your prayers, and your Mission Sunday contributions that helped us. And in words that are Fijian, Vanaka Vaka Levu, which means thank you very much.